Marriage, to me, is the most significant matter of a lifetime. It's not just a word. It's a heavy concept laden with joy and burdens I must carry throughout my life. When I was young, in the days of love and romance, I thought I could go through 100 relationships. Some came and went, fleeting like a passing breeze, leaving nothing behind but vague memories. Others drew me in with a momentary attraction, a striking appearance, a warm voice, or a glance that made my heart beat. But marriage is different. It's not the impulsive passion of youth. Marriage is a significant milestone in my life, a cord that binds me to the responsibilities and obligations of love. It's no longer the dreamy, soaring romance I once craved. Marriage is a weighty burden of worries, a long journey to build a husband and wife relationship, one I once believed would last forever. They say, miss by an inch, stray by a mile. That saying echoes in my mind whenever I think of marriage. Perhaps that's why I was cautious down to the smallest detail when I seriously considered a lifelong commitment. I didn't dare be careless or let myself dream as I did when I was in love. At first, I was afraid. I was worried that a single small mistake, a hasty decision, would throw everything off course, leading me down a path with no way out. Before marrying, I tried my hardest to understand, move slowly, and choose carefully. I consulted fortune tellers, picked auspicious dates, and calculated our ages for compatibility. I did it all, hoping for a beautiful beginning and a solid foundation for our life together. Sometimes, I told myself that marriage might be more straightforward than I thought. Just two people signing a registry, holding a wedding before relatives and friends, receiving joyful blessings amid laughter. But then, in restless nights, I asked myself, is divorce as easy as getting married? That question weighed heavily on me. Perhaps every divorce stems from discord, from tiny cracks I didn't notice. A wrong choice at the start, missed by an inch, could send my marriage sliding a mile off track. Yet I've also seen marriages that seemed like perfect paintings, flawless and harmonious in every glance and gesture, only to shatter in the end. It left me stunned, wondering if happiness could ever genuinely last. That's how it was with me and Emily. We once had a happy marriage, or so I thought. Whenever I recall our love at 17, I can only manage a faint smile tinged with regret and a pang of sorrow. No one believes, and I didn't dare, that a dreamy, unsteady love from that age could weather life's storms and endure through time to reach the shores of happiness. But it was different for Emily and me. Our love bloomed when we were still high school students. It was an afternoon volunteering with the youth group when Emily's clear, doe-like eyes, she was 17 then, met my dreamy gaze, a young man yet to taste life's bitterness. I remember that moment vividly. My heart pounded as if the world stopped just for us to see each other. From there, we got to know each other, grew closer and fell in love. A pure, innocent love but fierce in its intensity. Our high school romance could only exist in secret. Our families didn't allow it, and our teachers disapproved. We were still students, too young to grasp love's whole meaning. Yet Emily and I stayed together, defying everything. We'd sneak meetings after class, pass handwritten notes, and steal glances in the classroom. She was my first love, and I was hers. Under the schoolyard trees, we'd sit and dream of a future forever together, vague but beautiful enough to make my heart ache. That determination was immense. We studied together, passed the grueling college entrance exams, and entered the same university. I still remember the day we got our results. I hugged Emily tight in the school courtyard, tears falling from sheer joy. We dreamed of working the same job one day, building a little family. Back then, I believed love's strength was the most significant force capable of overcoming anything. After 4 years of college, we graduated with decent degrees. I was proud and confident enough to bring Emily home to meet my family. Luckily, both sides approved, pleased with our love. I thought, this is the perfect start I've always wanted. We landed jobs at a big company. Everything began smoothly, like a dream that stretched on. I worked hard, and so did Emily. Before long, our finances stabilized. I recall those first paychecks, We'd sit across from each other in a small diner, laughing about our future. Then, we planned our marriage. The wedding happened quickly, surrounded by countless blessings. People said we were a perfect match, born in compatible years, married on a lucky day, with good family backgrounds and steady jobs. Truly perfect, I'd think whenever I heard those words. We moved out, and my parents gifted us a house to start our life. Work was stable, money flowed comfortably, and life felt like a rosy painting. Two beautiful children arrived, bright and charming, a boy and a girl. I still feel the rush of holding them for the first time, my heart swelling with happiness and pride. Everyone praised our family and held us up as an example. Every neighborhood wedding invited us, hoping for our blessings to rub off. I thought, this is everything I've ever dreamed of, a perfect family, an unbreakable life. But then, with the house and kids settled at 35, I grew restless. I didn't want an easy life anymore. It felt stifling, as if life was passing too calmly, without challenge. I talked to Emily and convinced her to pour all our savings into a business. The business world is never smooth. I knew that, but I dove in anyway at midlife. I wanted to prove myself and bring something more significant to our family. At first, the losses were small. I told myself, it'll be fine, but they grew, draining our savings until nothing remained. I watched our beloved big house get sold, my heart breaking like glass. We moved to a cramped, tiny place in a dark alley. My kids, once at prestigious schools, now attended ordinary ones. I looked at them, my chest tightening with guilt, blaming myself for being useless. Selling the house wasn't enough to cover the losses. I kept going, taking out loans, mortgaging what little we had, clinging to scraps of hope. It was pointless, like salt tossed into the sea, meaningless, hopeless. I sank into despair. No glimmer of hope flickered in my mind. My heart felt empty, crushed under a bottomless abyss. I turned to alcohol, seeking escape from its bitterness. Every night, I stumbled home drunk, feet unsteady, muttering nonsense. Arguments erupted in our once peaceful home. I yelled at Emily, and she yelled back. Our kids' cries pierced the stifling air, driving me deeper into hopelessness. The day I declared bankruptcy, my soul went numb. People who'd admired us were shocked, but what hurt most was that, at my lowest, Emily demanded a divorce. The beautiful image everyone envied shattered instantly. I was stunned as if someone had stabbed me in the chest. My wife, the woman I'd trusted to stand by me forever, abandoned me when I was at my weakest. My mind went blank, overwhelmed by a hollow, aching pain. Seeing my kids' eyes red from crying, my heart clenched like it was being squeezed dry. I begged, pleaded, don't go, don't leave me, we can start over. But Emily was resolute, her eyes cold, unshaken. I thought I had to hold this family together, do anything to keep my kids from losing their mother, to keep her with me. But every time I saw Emily and the kids suffering because of me, eating meager meals, living in that cramped house, I wondered if I deserved to keep them. Finally, I signed the divorce papers, my trembling hand scrawling my name, tears soaking the page. For days after, our divorce was the talk of the town. People condemned Emily, calling her a fair-weather wife, a heartless woman who deserted her husband in crisis. Hearing it, I felt both pain and hatred. But she ignored it all as if the world's words meant nothing. And me? I was exhausted and hopeless. I sat alone in that small house, staring at bare walls, my heart heavy like it bore a dark sky. I'd given in, filled out the papers, signed them, and handed them to her silently. Emily took the document, gave me a look of contempt I'd never seen before, and tore it apart, pieces fluttering to the floor, ripping my heart along with them. I had no strength left to argue. What more do you want? I asked, my voice thick, hoarse with fatigue. I've done what you wanted. Aren't you satisfied? Emily didn't look at me. Her eyes gazed into some distant void, her tone flat. I see. That's too easy for you. We've got nothing left, and this mess of debt you made, you deal with it. Why drag me in? Remember the $20,000 US I borrowed from friends? Pay it back, then we'll divorce. I clutched my head, slumping forward. Despair flooded me, a wave drowning me in darkness. She demanded the divorce, ignoring my pleas. When I let go, surrendering to fate, she flipped it, tormenting me with debt. It was like pushing me to the edge of death. I didn't care anymore. Love was gone, and money was meaningless. I asked my parents to sell a plot of land, paid off some debts, and tried to stand up a little. But Emily wasn't satisfied. She refused to share the hardship and wanted me to bear it all, alone amid the wreckage I'd caused. I thought freeing her from this marriage would calm her, but she changed her mind, insisting I repay her. My heart ached like salt rubbed into an open wound. I was tired, utterly weary. I didn't want to argue or fight anymore. "What now?" I asked, my voice breaking, avoiding her gaze. Emily opened a drawer, pulled out a pen, and shoved it at me with finality. "Write an IOU for $20,000. Pay it off, then we'll talk divorce." I swallowed my anger and wrote it silently, hands shaking with frustration and helplessness. I slammed the pen, growling, "I'll pay it all." Emily replied coldly, "I'll wait. Your other debts? I don't care. But mine. Pay every cent, don't pay, and you'll never rest, even in death. I'm taking the kids to my parents for now. We're separated. Visit them if you want. I won't stop you." Then she called the kids, and they packed up and left. I sat there, bitterly watching their figures fade. Rage burned in me, but a deep, aching sadness was beneath it. My trembling hands texted her, "Truly, women's hearts are the cruelest." Everything I had was zeroed out: courage, spirit, money, family. My wife left me. My kids were gone. I wanted to flee, wander the ends of the earth, and leave this pain behind. I pictured vanishing, no one finding me, my name forgotten. But her words echoed, cold and sharp, piercing my pride like a blade. No, I wouldn't run. Even if it killed me, I'd pay her back and make her regret treating me this way. I quit drinking and resolved to rise. I listed every debt, each number a cut in my soul. I borrowed $200 from my parents, bought fruit, and started peddling on a cart. No more salary jobs. Those pitiful wages would never clear my debt. No risk, no riches, I told myself, repeating it like a vow. Where I fell, I climbed back. Sun scorched my skin. Rain soaked me through. I trudged the streets, my voice hoarse from calling out. Once holding millions, now I scrape pennies, shame mingling with resolve. Some rainy nights, in a thin poncho, I plodded on to sell the last of my stock. My face dripped wet. Rain or tears, I couldn't tell. Exhausted and feverish, I swallowed cheap pills and kept going, my steps heavy as if dragging the world. After a month, I saved enough to buy clothes for my kids. I hesitated at my in-laws' gate, my heart weighed down like a stone. Emily stepped out, her face blank, emotionless. "What are you doing here?" she snapped, her voice cutting. "I brought stuff for the kids," I stammered, feeling ragged beside her unchanged beauty. She snatched the bag, "They don't need it," and turned away. I hurried off, afraid to linger, afraid her indifference would stab me again, fearful of my kids' sad eyes watching from afar. 3 months later, I opened a fruit stall at the market. Luck, or a shred of leftover grace, brought crowds of customers. I saved every penny, but Emily never glanced my way. I sought her out, carrying $2,000, money I'd slaved for, hoping faintly to mend things. I waited at a cafe near her parents from dawn, weary, sorrowful, eyes sunken from sleepless nights. Seeing her, I slid the money over, my voice trembling. "Here's $2,000 I scraped together. Take it for now." She swatted it away, her eyes dripping contempt. "This is nothing next to the $20,000 you owe. Want a quick divorce? Pay it all first." Then she walked off, leaving me dazed. I stared at the scattered money, sadness numbing me. Anger surged, hatred flared. I swore to myself, no more begging. With that $2,000, I expanded my stall and business soared. Tom, a friend, offered $30,000. I hesitated, ashamed of my debts, but he clapped my shoulder. "Take it, rebuild, don't let me down." His words ignited me. I took it, not to pay Emily yet. I wanted her to feel shame for abandoning me. I opened more shops and worked like an ox, forgetting food and sleep. One day, I collapsed at the market, waking in a hospital, the stench of antiseptic thick around me. I looked for Emily, but only saw my mother, Sarah, by my bed. Does she know, Mom? I asked, tears spilling, feeling like a lost child. She stayed silent, her eyes sad. My heart stabbed with the sting of abandonment, sharper than ever. 2 years later, I struck it big. My shop spread everywhere, and money was plentiful. But my heart remained hollow, an empty shell without a soul. Friend said, "Find someone new, why be lonely?" I gave a weak smile, smoked, and stared into the distance. I hurt. I was lonely, lonely enough to collapse. But thinking of Emily, I feared women's hearts, feared another betrayal. That fear haunted me, locking my heart shut. I paid off all debts, but hers. I planned to face her, in this torment, sever this painful thread. But friend said, "Someone paid your debts." Stunned, my mind tangled, I rushed to my mother. "How could you pay?" I asked, voice shaking with confusion. She smiled gently, hand on my shoulder. "Family helps family, calm down." I didn't get it. My thoughts were a mess. I hurried to Tom and paid back the $30,000, seeking answers. He looked at me and said slowly, "That money was Emily's. She asked me to give it to you, pay your debts, and get medicine when you were sick." My hand shook, icy cold. "She's stingy. How could she help me?" I mumbled, disbelieving. Tom's tone hardened. "You're wrong. She did it all for you, quietly, without you knowing." I went home and lay sprawled, sighing long and deep. My mother sat beside me, recounting every detail. "Emily was heartbroken when you fell. She cried to me daily and pushed me by being harsh. She took you to the hospital, cared for you, but hid it all." Her voice softened. "She's a good wife, son." I wept, tears unending. Regret crashed over me like waves on rock. I'd been wrong, misjudged her, hated her to my core. I ran into the pouring rain, reached her parents' house, and hugged Emily tight amid the storm. "I'm sorry," I sobbed, tears mixing with rain. "I let you and the kids suffer too long." She held me, her face streaked with tears. That embrace melted every misunderstanding. We were together again, happiness reborn. Sometimes I reflect on that journey alone, remorse flooding me for hating Emily. But she saved me. I silently thank the heavens for her, the most excellent fortune of my life.